Alright, it's 6 p.m. here, 4 p.m. GMT. Let's start with the official stream. Welcome everyone. Maybe to start things off, I'm interested in where you came from, how did you find the stream, just let me know in the chat, which I will read, I guess, all the time now. I'm really interested where you came from, like Reddit, Simtropolis, are you just a Twitter follower, did you actually see the announcement video on YouTube? Please let me know that. And for everything that you write, keep in mind that there's like at least a 30-second delay, so I will take some time to answer. Yeah, and also tell me where in the world you are. Email, nice. Yeah, I was really surprised how much people still use email. Like the email subscription is the biggest source of viewers consistently. Dog-ecoin subreddit, wow. Or Dogecoin, I always pronounce that wrong. Ah, that's awesome to see. Well, Fitzy, that's too bad. Wow, 4chan, I'm on video games, that's awesome. I didn't even notice the Yogscast Sips thing. I don't know what that is. I know of course who Yogscast are. So if you've got a link for that, just paste it. I don't know if you can paste links in the chat. Alright, so that now I know pretty much where everyone is from, how they found me. Let's start with some light Q&A. Maybe try to not ask the very basic questions that you can see in the FAQ here. So if you're really new to the game, to the whole thing, please read that first. But if you've got some kind of deeper questions or questions that you feel that I haven't answered yet, now would be a good time to ask. And after that we will actually start with some development. And yeah, the thing I will try to implement today is a system for pollution, so that factories actually cause pollution and that residents are less likely to live next to them because of that. But I will talk about that in more detail when we get started with it. Alright, let me check out this Yogscast Sips thing.
Hi.
Sorry. Do I think this game will get us out of the recession? Well, as I already posted on Twitter, you can already save the economy, but of course only in the save file. You can't do that in real life. Will there be some sort of political system? Not really. I guess in a game you're this kind of omniscient and powerful, like all the city departments in one person, and you will have things like ordinances, I guess, but apart from that, the politics will be more like the environment in which you build your city. Maybe there will be parameters that kind of define what kind of political environment you're in, but you won't have direct control over that as the player. Car transit pollution maybe, but today we'll focus on just industrial resolution. What AI model am I going for to control the agents? Well, the cars are doing something that's called, what is it called, like a car following model, where they're just on this one-dimensional street and they only think about the car in front of them to know how much they have to brake and how much they have to accelerate. And for pathfinding they use kind of a special version of A star that I modified. Well, let me try to not miss any questions. Are there going to be landmarks? Well, there will be procedural landmarks, not like real world landmarks. At least I won't provide them, but I will try to implement procedural landmarks that look unique every time. How granular will be the environmental aspects? You will have terraforming and you will be able to plant individual trees if that's your thing. Will there be advisors? I don't know. On one hand it would be fun, on the other hand I think it kind of breaks your suspension of disbelief that you are this kind of omnipotent and all-knowing god almost over the city. So I think there will be no advisors. Instead you will be able to get your feedback directly from the citizens by inspecting them, seeing what kind of problems they have, where they work and so on. Will there be pre-made scenarios? Yes, probably. I mean, the simplest way to make these is just to provide some save games that have been played to a specific state. Yeah, the car eyes is still buggy because I didn't re-implement intersection behavior at all yet. It worked in the past with the old road system. For the new road system I just didn't do that yet, but that is something that I will do very soon. Speed limits, maybe not something that you will set yourself, but again, mods can allow for that. Will there be lakes? Yes. Yes, education will definitely have an impact on what kind of industry is attracted, and also maybe health, like it is in SimCity 5, and maybe even less accidents and stuff like that. Will it be possible to import custom height maps? In theory, yes. I mean, the problem is that the terrain is pretty, or will be pretty detailed, so that will probably increase the size of the save file dramatically, but it should be possible. I don't know if I will officially support the height map thing or if it will be a mod, but let's see. I didn't implement terrain yet anyway. Both seaports, yes, would be nice to have. So let's do Q&A maybe for another 10 minutes and then I will start with development. Will cars make way for emergency vehicles? Yes, that would be nice. Yeah, someone already asked about car and train routes earlier. I think that will be the level of detail in which you said that you can designate routes but not actual schedules. The schedules will be automatic, but you can set the individual lanes. Where's my coffee? Yes, my coffee. Delicious coffee. Will there be lots of data visualizations? Yes, and today we will implement the first one, hopefully. How will we implement density? I think it will be like a tool of its own, where you don't have zones of fixed like low, medium, high density, but instead you lay out the zones and then you choose a different tool where you can actually set exactly the height you want in this area. Will there be weather effects? Yes, hopefully. Disasters based on weather, also hopefully, but that's for the far future. Can you expand buildings like in SimCity 5, I guess? Probably not. What size of city in terms of cars and trains are you aiming for? Well, my goal is to really support like 50 by 50 kilometer plots, but I have no idea what I will have to do to make that possible. how much inhabitants will a really big city have? I hope I will be able to have like multi-million inhabitant cities. Just milk, no sugar in my coffee. Other than the sneak peek music that we've heard, was the general music theme for the game. Kind of jazzy in general, that kind of instrumentation, but yeah, I'm always having discussions with my musicians and they've also surprised me with like really different stuff, so I'm open for everything as long as like everything fits together well. Air travel, yes, there will be air travel. Graphically, yes, ideally you would be able to zoom in up to a few meters and still see enough details for it to look nice. Yes, buildings will have requirements, and today we will actually implement the first of these requirements, and that will be pollution. Progression system, no, not really time-based, but based on the size of your city. Yes, there will definitely be a sandbox mode with unlimited money and everything unlocked. 64-bit version, yes, I think so. I think Node WebKit, which it runs in, has a 64-bit version. Have you considered multi-threading? That's kind of a difficult question that I would have to go in a lot of detail in. Maybe like ask again at the end of the stream when we're done with everything, and I can answer more complicated questions like this. Why do you feel that 1 minute equals 1 second is too fast for big cities? Linux support, yes, definitely. I have already tried it on some Linux PCs and it seems to work in theory, but I haven't tested that in depth yet. Mac support, yes, it runs on my MacBook Pro already, and I will try different ones as well. Yes, there will be elevated roads. They will just work like bridges, but you will have, yeah, you will have so precise control over bridges that elevated roads will be easy. Will there be multiplayer, and will it be based on Node.js? Maybe in the far future there will be multiplayer. I'm not sure yet which kind of mode of multiplayer will be possible, and Node.js would be a nice technology because I'm using that already. More experimental forms of transport, yes, it would be nice to have them, and especially considering this game as a kind of place for experimentation. For new modes of transport. I don't know which ones I will provide in the vanilla game, but mods can offer all kinds of crazy transport stuff. Will taxes be the main form of your revenue? Yes, probably. I will also test it on a MacBook Air, yes. My MacBook Pro is a new one with Retina. You'll be able to create underpasses like this? I guess so, yes. Intersections, roundabouts, inside tunnels. I will have to see when I implement tunnels, but why not? Yeah, text and mirror, I get what you're saying, and this is the main problem with speeding time up in a crazy way like this. But there have been some discussions about exactly that. I don't know, I don't have time now, but later I might be able to give you a link where that is discussed in detail. I don't know if it will be just me working on this project for a whole span. I think now in the beginning it will be just me because it's simply the most efficient way to do it if I don't have to communicate basically, or just communicate in my head. but later on the help of additional people might be needed. Yeah, neighboring cities are pretty abstract so far, and I guess the first kind of multiplayer that there would be to replace these abstract links just by other cities that are running on a different computer, and that shouldn't even be too difficult. Yes, there will be trucks transporting stuff between businesses and neighboring city. Yeah, first person mode would be nice. When did you first come up with the idea for the game? I guess around last October. It got more concrete when the new SimCity came out, and I noticed like what I liked about it and what I didn't like. I guess in theory I've been thinking about making my own city game for ages now. Like I've always had it in the back of my head and what I would like to have inside there. And well, the thing that changed was really after getting all this great community feedback and interest that now I feel like I can actually do it, and now I have to focus on getting the core done so that with the help of the community I can in the end implement all my dreams that I built over the past time. Yeah, there will be Cs. Will buildings be modular? Yes, maybe. What do you mean with LAN? Multiplayer over LAN? Yeah, I guess so. If I implement multiplayer, you will be able to do it over LAN. Yes, of course offline gameplay will be possible. Don't be confused about it being developed in JavaScript. The JavaScript will all be on your PC locally and it will just run like a normal native game. You don't need internet at all. Yes, maybe JavaScript will become a bottleneck, but so far the only bottleneck has been my own stupidity, and I've always been able to find more intelligent ways to implement it, so JavaScript wasn't a bottleneck anymore, and only if I hit like a really hard bottleneck with JavaScript I will consider trying something else, but for the beginning it's just a great language to prototype everything in, and even if it eventually will be too slow, I had this language to really quickly implement everything in, and then I can just port it to a faster but maybe more cumbersome language. How will feedback from the citizens work? Well, you will be able to just click individual houses and they will have something like the visitors in Rollercoaster Tycoon have, like thoughts about their current situation. Like in Rollercoaster Tycoon, or the people that are in your park have thoughts like, wow, this ride is great, or I'm feeling tired, or the food at this stand was great, and I want to do it similar like that they have these thoughts like, wow, my job sucks, or I have to go so far to go to my job, or I don't know any places to shop. And just by inspecting a lot of citizens you will get a good idea of what the needs of the city currently are. I definitely hope that the community will help me with designing buildings, and I actually want to offer like a really great interface for that, because all the buildings are of course procedural, so there's not one particular building model, but there's a rule set then that can create one building of a particular style, but for different lot shapes and different sizes and so on. And the community will be able to also create rule sets like this and share it with each other to implement all kinds of building styles, and I hope to get some great variety from the community there. How do I feel being hopefully the savior of the city building genre, I guess? So far it feels great. I hope I live up to this expectation. Yeah, be a great inspiration. Can you make new roads on top of roads, like multiple layers? Yes, you will be able to do that. Since it runs on WebGL, you mean you might be able to play it in a browser. In theory, yes. The problem is that doing stuff like save games is really difficult once you're in a browser, because you don't really have access to the local file system of the user, and also it wouldn't allow me to package the system in a nice way and distribute it on stuff like itch.io or Steam. So I will maybe try that, but at first it will only be a prepackaged downloadable game. Have I tried Banished? Actually no, but I've watched a lot of Let's Plays, but I will definitely try it out myself. For my JavaScript, am I using existing libraries? Yes, for the user interface I'm using jQuery, and for all the 3D stuff I'm using Three.js, but I'm starting to like heavily customize it for my needs, and in the future it will be maybe necessary to just completely drop it because it gets in the way too much, and kind of write my own minimalistic 3D engine on top of WebGL. Which tool do I use for the 3D buildings? So far none. All of the buildings are just created by code, not modeled. Will there be a simulation of the world around you? Yes, probably. I mean, we already have these kind of abstract neighboring cities that also will develop according to the development of your city, and that might become even more complicated. Alright, so we're 20 minutes in. I think I will take a very quick break and be right back, and then we will start with the actual development. So see you in like 3 or 4 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Alright, I'm back. Let me maybe answer some of the last questions and then let's go. Merging lanes back doesn't fully work yet, and that's the reason why why interchanges with more than 2-lane roads don't work yet, but that's something that I want to implement very soon. Did you play Cities XL? Yes, but I got bored of it very quickly, which is not, I guess, a very good critique, but it wasn't like my style of city game. Will the game support same-sex marriage? Why not? Alright, so let's get started with development. As I said in the beginning of the stream, I don't know if you missed it, if you were already there. Today we will be implementing pollution in the game, at least pollution that comes from industrial buildings. And we will base the whole thing on the technology that I kind of created for the zoning system, because pollution will be, at least the pollution caused from buildings, will be a kind of a map overlaying the whole city that just at each point stores how polluted the area is there. So before actually starting to implement that, let me maybe show you in detail how the zoning system works. I talked a little bit about that in the last update, but let me actually visually show you how it works. So let's start up Citybound. And yeah, so if we paint some zones, the way I implemented it in the beginning was that there was just this limited size where you could paint zones in, because I didn't have enough storage space to save zones for this whole thing. But of course we don't need to save zones at every point of this like huge map, but only where actually some zones are. So if we paint over here but nowhere else, we should only save this part. So what I did was actually to divide this whole thing into tiles where zones are saved, and to only create and save those tiles where there's actual zoning info inside. And I will show you in a second what that looks like. So if we uncomment this code here, it actually enables some kind of debug lines that we can see. So now if we paint some zones, yes, we see that actually tiles are created where we paint zones and only where we paint zones. As soon as we get outside this, a new tile is created. So we don't have to save zoning info for the whole map, but only these places where there actually is something. If I paint over here, it creates tiles over here. And we will be using this same system for pollution information, because obviously pollution will also be only near to existing buildings, and we will only have to save it near to those buildings. The text editor I'm using is Sublime Text. Yes, exactly. And if at any point you get like really confused what's happening, let me know and I will take a step back. But for now, let's get started and let's actually implement pollution. Let's add a new file, name that very creatively pollution.js. Close the game when we don't need it to make the stream run better. And let's think about how we want to do this. So the zones, what I just showed you graphically, those tiles, that's something that's called tiled data texture that I implemented for the zones. And we will use the same thing for pollution information. So let's kind of start to create the, how do you call that? Kind of the skeleton of the pollution module. And think about what we need here. So I've divided the game into all these kind of modules, and all of them basically have one main hook point which is used to integrate them with the rest of the game. And this is kind of the, I always call this, I think, init and add to. Sorry if I get a little bit distracted because of the chat. So we start with this init and add to function that will be called at the very beginning of the game, and it will it expects a scene, which will be, this is a 3JS scene, and we can use that to create new things that should be drawn on the screen by adding them to the scene. If we compare that to the zones, here we also have this init and add to function, which gets handed a scene. So what we will do is attach that to our just global pollution kind of singleton. We only have one of this object. And we set that to the scene that we are given by the initialization of the game. And then we can already start to construct our tiled data structure. Let's actually use this instead. How did I call it in zones? Let's open two views like that. I just called it come on, tiled data texture. Yeah. This is kind of weird programming and explaining it at the same time. I feel like I'm talking to myself, but kind of subconsciously I know that you guys are still following it. So tiled data texture expects to be given three things. The first parameter is the size of each tile, and as you can see here, for zones we use a tile size of 1024 pixels. So each of those tiles you saw earlier is actually a bitmap that stores 1000 by 1000 pixels of zoning information. I think for the pollution data this doesn't have to be as accurate, because the pollution will be very kind of blurry anyways. So let's use something much lower, like 256. And let's also, here we have this variable called zone map resolution that tells us how big one of the pixels of the zoning bitmap is in the game. So 1 pixel of zoning info is 2 meters big, and for, as I said, for pollution we can probably use something way bigger, like pollution map resolution. So let's say 1 pixel of the pollution map will be 10 meters. I think that should be fine. So now this tiled data texture thing expects two other things, and this is what's called the data array creation function here and the texture creation function. This is kind of very in depth now. Basically here we create the actual textures for 3JS. Don't worry if you're lost, I will explain everything in a lot of detail. If you are totally confused, maybe just try to follow it on a high level. And I think it will get more exciting again when we actually see what's happening, but let me just get over that. No, we're running low on this space. No. Alright, so this next part will probably be very confusing, so I won't talk a lot about that, but I will try to continue explaining what I'm doing when I'm done with this. So here we basically just create the data store that we will store the pollution map inside. Let me see, my computer just told me that I'm running low on this space, which would be pretty bad, yeah. I should have prepared for this. I think I will need to stop the local recording and just hope that Twitch will continue to archive it. So let me see if I can stop that. Yeah, my hard drives are bad. Sorry, I should have prepared for that. I didn't think that hard drive space would go low so quickly. Hold on, I really gotta make sure. Yeah, I should have prepared for this. Alright, I will have to stop streaming really quickly to stop the local recording. I'm sorry about this.